Mark-Emery, who started his career with a degree in international business and finance in 1980 as an area market manager, developing new markets in Europe and Africa for a multinational manufacturer of consumer goods. He moved from Chicago to Costa Rica in Central America, where he owned a trading seat in the Costa Rica Commodities Exchange. He was later invited to sit on the board of directors, where he served for 2 years, helping the exchange expand its reach to the agricultural sector and international markets. Finance and investing were areas of interest, and he learned to trade with Carefood Investments International and quickly became the top trader in the company, which is a global company. He offered his trading signals to subscribers on the Collective 2 platform, where he was discovered by a UK hedge fund, which contracted him to trade for them. Now, please, Mark, we are ready for your presentation, please.
Very good, thank you. And good afternoon, everybody. I'm here in sunny Panama, and it's morning. I just finished my morning coffee. So I'm raring to go. The only thing is that when I first logged in here today, that my power went out. So I'm without electricity. I'm working off of battery backup. I think the batteries might last till the end of my presentation. So bear with me if anything happens. I think I'm good. So anyway, I'm going to be talking today about making passive profits in the world, which has really gone upside down, right? We've really gone topsy-turvy in the investment markets. So many question marks have come up. I'll go to share my screen now. And I'm going to talk about one specific profit opportunity. Let me go back, and I got to put that down. There we go. MMG Capital Management and Trust is a newer member of the family of companies in the MONACO Management Group, which I have formed. It's a family of companies that complement each other in the arena of international finance and investment. Okay, so MMG Capital Management and Trust is domiciled in Sweden, and it is regulated by the Swedish authorities as a fiduciary to do capital management and to do trust management. We heard earlier from Irina about working with trusts, and I firmly believe from experience and knowledge that trusts are one of, if not the most effective vehicle for managing assets and protecting assets, okay? Irina did a good job getting into that, so I will leave that with her. So let's get into the profit opportunities. You know, for investors, it's a very difficult situation. We hear so often about the real estate markets in various parts of the world are in a bubble. We see what's happening in the stock markets around the world, you know, very volatile. Again, bubble conditions. We look at the bond markets, close to zero, if not oftentimes negative yields on bonds. And so it's getting that much more difficult and treacherous for investors to rely on consistent profits. And that's what we want to focus on. MMG has always been highly focused in getting away from the traditional investment markets, all right, the traditional vehicles, for so many reasons. So we deal more so in alternative assets. And those alternative assets could involve precious metals, cryptocurrencies, financial technology, business projects, things that really start coming onto the leading edge of asset preservation of value. And, you know, some people will say, oh, cryptocurrencies, you know, that's not stable. That's so volatile. And you know, we're largely in the trading business, and traders love volatility. Going up or going down, it doesn't matter. We are just looking for movement, and that's where the opportunities are. Okay? So the MONACO Management Group is the family of companies that we've put together to serve specific purposes, and different websites will kind of show you a little bit about the differentiation between some of the different companies. MMG.world is the flagship site. You saw MMG Capital Management at MMG.biz. And so we deal largely in trust arrangements, as I just mentioned. We establish a trust structure for our clients, and then that trust or that group of trusts is able to build a portfolio, a diversified portfolio in various markets, okay? And we offer our clients an online banking software. It's an account management software. It's the same as many banks use. In fact, the software that we use is much more functional and user-friendly than some of the banks that I've actually had to deal with. And don't get me started on the banking system right now. Not a very friendly environment for many business people. All right, so privacy is one thing, and that's very important these days in the age of transparency. Without privacy, you really have no security. All right, if your life is an open book, you're in danger. People have too much information. They can do a lot with that information, and you're at risk. So privacy is essential to having security. All right, so that's one thing that's very important to us, but growth is another. Okay, most people these days are being challenged to preserve their wealth or to create wealth. You know, for those that are on the upward trend, creating wealth is becoming increasingly difficult. All right, now what we have here is a chart showing the monthly returns this year for our trading activity. January, 30%. February was fantastic, 69%. I wouldn't expect to see that very often, but it did happen. And in March and April, when the markets were crashing all around the world, we still were upwards close to 20% per month in March and April. Now, some people find it hard to believe that these figures are real simply because they haven't been exposed to it. You know, the institutionalized world wants you to take those crumbs off the table while they use your money and generate these kinds of returns. Okay, so let me just repeat what the text says on the top, that these figures are actual figures and they're supported by detailed trade reports. Okay, we can go trade by trade to show you exactly how and when these returns were generated. So if we took these monthly returns and compounded those, if we had, for example, a hypothetical beginning account figure at $100,000, at the end of January, that was up 30%. So that's now 130,000. And you can see in 4 short months what has happened with these kinds of returns. But let's say that never happens again. Let's say we can only do half that amount in the future. All right. We're still looking at a means to generate profits that are far and above what are typically available from the institutionalized world, right? So you might ask, well, how can we possibly generate these kinds of returns? Well, it's a combination of things. We use a combination of different platforms, different trading methods and styles, so that we have an ability to diversify risk. But let me just give you some examples, okay? We trade quite frequently in the CFD market, contracts for difference, foreign currencies, precious metals, futures. We have platforms that are automated, that do algorithmic trading, all right? It's just every day, doing thousands of micro trades. With the algorithmic trading, we have systems that use AI, artificial intelligence, that consistently generate double-digit monthly returns. I do a fair amount of the manual trading, and I've developed a system that has a 97% success rate on winning trades, okay? And that's very exciting. So in some cases, we use a good amount of leverage, all right? And with the leverage, we can experience, for example, if we go 100 times leverage, we can make 100% on the equity we've committed to a trade with a 1% move in the price. And the beauty is, we don't have to be long. We can make profits in the market, whether the market's going up or down. So you've always heard that, you know, in previous depressions throughout history, in depressions and recessions, there are always people making millions of dollars in a depressed economy. We've positioned ourselves so that we can do the same thing. Regardless of what happens to the economy, we can generate profits, okay? So that's speaking in general terms. Now let's take a look at one specific profit opportunity that I'd like to share with you, so we can really dig down into specifics and you can kind of get an idea how this works. All right, here's a chart of the crude oil futures, WTI, West Texas Intermediate Oil Futures. And this is a weekly chart. So each of the candles that you see here represents the price action for 1 week. But because this chart is so compressed in time, so we can get this whole time frame in the screen, you really can't see the candles. You can see a little bit of green and red, but anyway, this is a weekly chart. And you can see right now that this was taken a couple weeks ago. Price was down around $21. It's now creeping up a little bit, back up to about 25. But we're at historic all-time lows for the price of oil. If you're following that at all, you know very well. Now, this chart just shows unadjusted dollar value. The dollar value today is nothing what it was 30 years ago, right? So if we adjusted this for inflation, dollar adjusted representation, inflation adjusted, then we would be at an all-time low, all right, relatively speaking. So that's the big picture, right? You probably heard several weeks ago about the record deal by OPEC plus nations, Saudi Arabia, Nigeria, all the OPEC countries, plus Russia and others that have been included into the negotiations. They cut a record deal to cut the output. People were thinking that would end the price war. The market didn't react too much to that, all right? But that's going to contribute to the overall activity in the marketplace, all right? Here's an article just a week ago in oilprice.com talking about how this could be the beginning of a tremendous oil rally as the economy starts to open up again. Of course, the price dropped through the floor with the lockdown. The global economy virtually stopped. Consumption of oil went through the floor. It just stopped. Yet the producers kept producing. It's very difficult and damaging oftentimes to shut down oil wells. All right, so the producers kept producing. The storage facilities started filling up. And we actually had a case a couple weeks ago where oil was in negative price territory. In other words, people that were holding contracts to take delivery of oil were paying people to take this oil away from them because they had nowhere to put it. Okay? But so we're at the bottom of the market, most people would say. All right? Here's an article just 2 weeks ago. Brent oil price could double by December. All right? So this is the sentiment. This is the position that many people are taking. And from that article, let me just read you a couple of excerpts from that article. UBS Chief Investment Officer Mark-Emery this morning said, while the oil market is heavily oversupplied this quarter, we expect it to move towards balance next quarter and become undersupplied in Q4 this year as the lockdown restrictions are eased and oil demand picks up. Hafel even expects a price shock to the upside towards the end of the year, saying that Brent prices could rise 110% from current levels, reaching $43 by the end of the year as markets risk becoming undersupplied during the last quarter of 2020. UBS isn't the only forecaster that sees a sharp rise in crude prices toward the end of the year. Both IEA and OPEC see Brent prices increasing to at least $35 to $37 and $40 respectively towards the end of the year. All right. So one of the reasons for this is because of the huge and drastic drop in the prices. Many of the marginal oil producers have been forced out of business. They've been forced to shut their wells down and go into bankruptcy. And those wells will not be coming back online for production. So we have a natural culling of the producers in the market, which is going to further restrict the output production. And of course, we know simple supply and demand. With less output and increasing demand as the economies open up again, the price can only go up. So let's look at some targets that we have set here, okay? We have target number 1 at the bottom is $42, all right? Now this chart was done when the price was at $20, all right? So we'll just use that for illustration purposes to show you how this works, okay? So if target 1 is $42, which we just saw in the article being a price target, the $20 is the $20 difference from the price at the time of this graph, $20.42. That difference is $22, okay? So if we go up above and look at, let's just say $10,000 invested, let's say half of that is used for margin to enter with some trades. The other half is held in reserve, which you need to have equity to absorb fluctuations in the market. So 5,000 is used to enter with 5 lots, okay? Each lot that we control in the market controls 1,000 barrels. So 5 lots would control 5,000 barrels of oil. And so 5,000 barrels of oil times the price gain, target 1, for example, being $22, all right, would represent a potential $110,000 profit on a $10,000 investment, okay? And we can do the same extrapolation for target number 2 and target number 3. All right, so you can see the potential for some fantastic gains, and it's not going to happen overnight. You know, it's going to take, as one article indicates, possibly till the end of the year, possibly into next year. But even at that rate, we're looking at some pretty nice gains. Okay, so what we're doing, so I just have given you, if you are set up to do trades in the futures markets, I just gave you some consulting advice there that could make you a ton of money. All right, take it, run with it, and God bless you. All right, if you're not set up to take advantage of the markets, we can help you. What we're doing is we're putting clients in a position where we can win together on this, all right? And the process is very simple. What we do initially is we set up a very simple single purpose trust for $500. This is nothing. This is a drop in the bucket. And again, this is a stripped down, streamlined, easy entry process to take advantage of this single opportunity alone. All right. This is not what we call our full service with access to the online banking and diversified portfolio development and things like this. This is just a simple one-off single purpose situation that we're doing for this opportunity alone. All right. So we set up a single purpose trust. We use the digital signatures via DocuSign. We can do that remotely, so we don't need to have physical presence or be affected by travel restrictions. We fund the trust with a minimum of 1 Bitcoin or more, okay? We are finding it so much easier to deal in cryptocurrencies than to deal with the banking system. And I'm sure if you've had any experience, you know what I'm talking about. The banks have been extremely difficult to work with. And so we're just going to deal in Bitcoin in this particular case. Okay. We'll help you get the Bitcoin, show you where you can get it, how to do it. If you're new to the whole Bitcoin scenario, we can help you with that. It's pretty simple. And more and more people are coming on board with this as a medium of exchange on a daily basis. Okay, so we'll help you with that if the need arises. And once you're on board, you'll get a weekly report via email to know where we're at. You'll see a little bit about the activities during the week, get a report from the traders, and you'll be informed at all times. Okay. So it's really simple to take advantage of it, all right? And then you'll have an option to liquidate the trust at any target level, okay? We expect that first level target to hit before too long. I don't want to put a date on it, but I would say before the end of the summer, I think would be very reasonable to have a very nice gain and then be able to liquidate and go on to other things if that's what you want to do. What a lot of people are opting to do is to liquidate, for example, half of their position at the target number 1, leave the other half to shoot for target number 2. And at that point, decide if they would want to leave anything to try and reach target number 3 or just liquidate at the balance at target number 2. So there's different ways that this can be done, okay? It's not set in stone. And this is flexible based upon your needs and desires. Okay, so very exciting. If this is something that you would like to explore further, here's an email you can use. In the subject line, please just put it oil, and we can send instructions out as to how to proceed from there or answer your questions accordingly. The email is mmgfinance@protonmail.ch. Okay, so that's the oil opportunity. If you'd like to take a more comprehensive approach, we can build a diversified portfolio in alternative assets, which, as I mentioned, different fintech business projects that we're involved in. Some very interesting things going on there, precious metals, cryptocurrencies, or just get involved in the general trading scenario just for long-term profit generation, okay, short and long-term profit generation, okay? So there's different ways we can do this. The oil opportunity is a very simple, stripped-down version to participate in that directly and nothing more. Or we can talk about a more comprehensive approach if that's something that you desire.